Wondering how the transition from asylum and temporary protected status to marriage green card looks like? In this video, we will answer the most common questions we get regarding this transition, and we will also discuss traveling back home after getting your marriage green card in regards to the asylum case, since there is so much conflicting information online. We've helped so many couples navigate this journey successfully by handling this process right in on the first try, just like Natalia, who transitioned from asylum and TPS to her marriage green card in just 4 months. If you're still struggling to find the right solution for your marriage green card needs, you can speak to us directly by using the link in the description below. We will start this conversation with asylum, and then we'll discuss temporary protected status, or TPS. Let's get to the first thing you need to know. There are 2 types of transitions from asylum to a marriage green card. These include transitioning from affirmative or defensive asylum. In this video, we're covering affirmative asylum only, which is the process where the immigrant is transitioning from a lawful admission to the United States. Okay, what does lawful admission mean? This is where the immigrant entered the US on a valid visa, such as a tourist or student visa, for example, and from that valid visa, the immigrant then filed an asylum petition. That petition is currently pending with an asylum office, and since it can be pending for many years, very often people end up getting into serious relationships that ultimately lead them into the marriage adjustment of status route. But that's where all the big questions come in, such as, how will my marriage adjustment affect my asylum case? Should I withdraw my asylum case after I get married, or when is the best time to close my case? Can I travel back home to my home country, and when, etc. Always, the first question we get is, how will my marriage adjustment of status affect my pending asylum? The quick answer, your marriage green card application will not affect your pending asylum. The reason for this is that these are 2 separate processes. The USCIS will treat these processes individually, but that doesn't mean your asylum case isn't considered for your marriage green card application. So be sure to stick around to understand what they will look into when adjudicating your marriage green card. But since these are treated as 2 separate processes, filing a marriage green card application by itself will not have any effect on your pending asylum. Meaning you can have these 2 applications pending at the same time, no problem. The next question we often get is, should I withdraw my asylum case after marrying a US citizen? While you may be tempted to want to withdraw your asylum case as soon as you start your marriage green card journey, there are 2 reasons why you should not do that. First, as mentioned in the first point, you are allowed to have pending asylum and marriage adjustment of status cases simultaneously. Since you are allowed to have both pending, you would actually be limiting yourself and the immigration paths available to you by withdrawing your asylum. For instance, no matter how sad this sounds, this is real life, and marriages can end abruptly before the conclusion of the marriage-based adjustment of status. And in such a case, you would be in a more vulnerable position than had you kept your asylum in place. And second, withdrawal of your asylum case would trigger a referral to immigration court. This is why it is so important to really understand the full picture of your immigration journey. There are countless pitfalls such as this one, where you can seriously jeopardize your immigration status and totally stress yourself out merely because you weren't fully informed on the process. We just sat down for a big interview with Gabriella, who also successfully transitioned from asylum to marriage green card, and you absolutely have to hear her story. She maintains such a strong mindset throughout the entire journey, and she shared her secrets in that video, so definitely check it out. All right, moving on. The next logical question is, well, in that case, when should I close my case with an asylum office? This is important because, as mentioned earlier, improperly timing the termination of your asylum case can lead into proceedings. But there's a time when you should actually close your case with the asylum office in a safely manner. Many sources online are contradictory, but the time you should close your case is after the actual receipt of your physical marriage green card. It's big, and you do need to hear it again. Only close your case after you have your green card in hand. At this point in time, you would now have legal status to remain in the US, so there would be no basis to place you in the deportation proceedings. So, to the next point. Now you've got a pending asylum and marriage green card case. Applicants then often ask, okay, so what happens if I get called in for an asylum interview before I get my green card? And this is a very real possibility. It shouldn't concern you too much, as the asylum office is incredibly slow, but you should be aware of what happens in this case. If you get called into an interview for your asylum case while waiting for approval of your marriage adjustment of status, it is a good idea to comply with your asylum interview. This means you should consider attending. However, if at that interview you get denied, you will be referred to the immigration court. From there, you will want to tell the judge that you have a pending family-based petition and request that you are adjudicated on the basis of that family-based application. Obviously, you would need to consult with an attorney and build the strategy from there. Now, you might also be wondering whether the USCIS will review your asylum application when evaluating your marriage green card application. It's very likely that the adjudicating officer will review the asylum application. Why? Because immigration officers are looking to prevent immigration fraud. Thus, officers will likely look into your asylum application to determine if it was a valid request. Meaning, they're trying to determine whether you were legitimately trying to acquire immigration benefits or attempting to gain these benefits through fraud. So, this is just another place where USCIS officers will look for any red flags when evaluating your application. However, keep in mind that it won't likely be an in-depth review, just a quick review to try to gain insight into your intent. Now to the big question. Can you travel to the country you claim persecution from after you get your marriage green card? First, it's essential to withdraw your asylum application as soon as you receive your physical green card. You would prepare the letter and email it directly to your asylum office. Technically speaking, as soon as you do that, it should be safe to travel back home. That being said, it's often a good idea to wait for you to naturalize as a US citizen before taking this trip. The reason is that some USCIS offices extensively question applicants regarding these trips during naturalization interviews. Although it likely won't prevent you from naturalizing, it might cause some serious stress. Since spouses of US citizens get to naturalization relatively fast, it might make sense to wait. On the other hand, country conditions do change. For example, a country may sign a law protecting a certain group of people, thus making it safe for you to travel there. Whatever the situation is, make sure to consult with an attorney before you make any big commitments. Alright, now let's briefly cover the temporary protected status. Sometimes they go hand in hand with an asylum, but sometimes it's a separate thing. The biggest thing to consider here is whether you had a lawful entry. Let's say a person entered on a tourist visa 15 years ago, overstayed, and then their country of origin got designated for temporary protected status 2 years ago. They applied and are now under TPS. Well, in that case, it's a typical marriage adjustment of status process. You would just have to properly answer questions on Form I-485 and provide an explanation of your visa overstay. Again, we're talking about a marriage to a US citizen. But if the person does not have a lawful entry, meaning they entered without inspection, it becomes a bit more nuanced. Sometimes you can fix it by applying for advanced parole or travel permit through TPS and then traveling outside the US and re-entering back to gain that lawful entry. But either way, when it comes to unlawful entries, you always want to consult with an attorney to make sure you're on the right track. Otherwise, that's it for now. Give this video a like and we will see you next time.